time now is 6:15, and the first post-Brexit trade deal negotiated from scratch came into force overnight. What difference will our new relations with Austria and New Zealand have for businesses and shoppers here? Sean's been taking a look. Morning, Sean.
Hi, Martha. Yeah, it's going to mean that taxes or tariffs on most goods going in and out of the UK from and to Australia and New Zealand will be dropped. Now, the government reckons that the deal will increase how much the UK produces as a nation, so the size of our economy, our GDP, by 0.08%, or £2.3 billion, and that will be by 2035. Many have been looking at that figure. Post-Brexit, it says it will provide unprecedented access to the Australian market for British services and investors, but its own analysis highlights that agriculture and semi-processed food industries here in the UK will be hit by the deal. Shane Brennan is the chief executive of the Cold Chain Federation, which represents chilled food traders. Shane, morning to you.
Good morning.
What do you make of the deal?
I mean, it's a good move. Free trade agreements are always a positive step. Free trade's good, reducing tariffs, reduce costs, and smooths out. But crucially, free trade smooths out those rough edges of those non-tariff barriers that really are the thing that stops businesses being able to trade in some cases. And hopefully, this deal from tomorrow will reduce those.
So will you see this actually kicking in and making a difference in the coming days?
A bit. Really, these agreements really are about the long term rather than the short term. And, and businesses won't suddenly start trading. Australia doesn't become geographically closer tomorrow than it was yesterday just because of the free trade deal. And so, a range of factors involved. But yes, we will start to see those changes immediately.
And, partly because it's our newfound ability to negotiate these specific trade deals that we didn't have when we were part of the European Union. People are looking at those long-term benefits. When you see the UK government's analysis saying this will increase the size of our economy by 0.08%, is this stuff worth it?
Yeah, it's always worth it because it's incremental positive to increase trade opportunities. And also we have to think about things in terms of where the risks are of trade disruption. We're going to see trade disruption with our relationship with the EU, which has already happened on our exports and will be even more significant on our imports in the months ahead. And we're also seeing it volatile across the world. There are markets opening up and closing all the time. So having free trade agreements and robust relationships like the one we have with Australia will create that supply chain security and options for the medium term, and that has to be a positive.
When you say create supply chain security, would it have made any difference to the sort of the instabilities we've seen, particularly in food over the last year?
No, probably not, because obviously the factors around global trade, shipping costs have been very, very high in the last sort of 2 years. It costs about £12,000 to get a container from Australia to the UK today, and that was £25,000 2 years ago. So, we see that kind of volatility playing out. Also, Australia has a lot of lucrative markets much closer to home. So when it comes to importing from Australia, we're up against some tough competition from Southeast Asia and from the US for things like beef. So in the short term, no, but over the long term, as other markets change, having this free trade agreement will be of benefit to create that potential for more trade that we all need to see.
And do you envisage it will change the price of what we see on our shelves significantly in either direction?
Not significantly, but yes, it will affect the trade because tariffs coming down, non-tariff barriers being removed will ultimately create opportunities for reducing the cost of those goods, and that can only be a positive.
Can it though, or do you have concerns? Do you hear concerns about industry here in the UK seeing that added competition, particularly the agriculture sector?
I certainly hear it, and I think there are. I can see why domestic producers might have some concerns, but I think what the evidence analysis shows is that actually those effects are probably going to be marginal, and we have to always be thinking from a cold chain, supply chain point of view about our resilience and our options, and being able to draw on more different places to get hold of product is really important if we want to see cost inflation being kept as far under control as possible, and choice for UK consumers.
Well, you certainly do have to consider that perspective as Chief Executive of the Cold Chain Federation. Shane, thank you very much for joining me this morning. Shane Brennan there, boss at the Cold Chain Federation. Now, we're going to have to